Hi folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead. This is Travis. So the last video, I talked about being in the city if SHTF happens. Some kind of SHTF. Could be apocalyptic, it could just be that, you're stuck in the middle of a tornado in the city. And what do you do? So I want to carry on with that today, but specifically talk about being stuck in a large urban metropolitan area, and that's not your home base. So some of you live in cities. Some of you live in large cities. And so your plan for SHTF, your preparedness plan, is going to be different because that's your home base. You're able to stockpile things. You're able to set up plans of, where to shelter and backups and stuff like that. But some people don't. Or maybe you live in the city, but you're traveling to another city. So today I want to talk about if you are traveling in a city, a large city, and you get stuck there because something bad happens, and what to do. And then, this could be a vacation. You could be passing through a town. It may be commuting to work. Maybe you live out in the country, but you have to commute. There's people, millions of people that commute sometimes hours a day to work. So this is for those of you, because it's a little different. Your plan for that type of situation has to be different because you're not at home. You don't have the luxury of having all your stockpiles at home to fall back on. Basically what you have is what's on your body or in your vehicle. So that's what we want to talk about. Now, a lot of people talk about these get-home bags, 72-hour bags, bug-out bags. There might be some slight variation in those, but they're all pretty much the same. And I have no problem with them. I think they're a great idea. The problem that I have with is most people, when they talk about them in a situation, you're in your vehicle, something happens, and you've got to get home. The idea is that you have to abandon your vehicle and get out on foot, so you need to have something that you can carry with you, which is a great idea. But what a lot of people kind of neglect is the fact that you may not have to abandon your vehicle. So what can you carry in your vehicle that it may not be something you could carry on your person, but you can carry it in your vehicle and you can have it there in case something happens, because vehicles can carry a lot more than we can. So my point is to not just have a get-home bag, but to have something else in your vehicle with extra supplies, because there's a chance that you may not have to abandon your vehicle, or you may not have to abandon it for a while. And each situation will vary and, determine whether you have to do that or not. So to start off with, every vehicle should have not just a bug-out bag or a get-home bag, but it should have some type of container with just extra things that you couldn't fit in a bug-out bag, so that if you're able to stay with your vehicle, you have extra supplies. Those plastic tubs work really great, and especially if you have a vehicle that has enough cargo capacity that you could put one in. An SUV, larger vehicles with a good sized trunk, pickup trucks, things like that, that you can have a decent sized tote where it stays there. This is ideal. And you can find lists online that will give you ideas for all kinds of things. And I'm not going to go into a lot of specifics on the exact items that you need in there, but let's cover some basics. Number one, and is, in my opinion, one of the biggest, and this is something that I've talked about a lot on here, is water. Water. We can go quite a while without food. It's not ideal. I know you're burning calories, so you need to put back in. Eventually you're going to wear your body down. I get it. I get that. But the reality is you can go longer without food or with less food. With water, not really that long. They say 3 days. It could be longer, it could be less, but you also have to realize that you're going to be, sweating, moving around. It could be in the middle of the summer like it is now, where it's triple digits. Or at least triple digits in a lot of places. So you're going to be sweating, you're going to be burning, that water off faster. And so you may not even last 3 days without water. So water is essential. But here's the thing. I've talked about this before also with home filtration. You need to have a way to filter the water. Yes, of course, you've got to be able to find it. And in an urban environment, I would think, even if the whole system fails, you know, no electricity, water's not pumping, that you could still find some water. But is it safe to drink? And I know there's life straws and all sorts of, you know, portable water filtration devices. And while I have never tested one of those in extreme situations, I'm a little leery about being solely dependent upon them. Here's some facts. Well, I wouldn't say facts. I haven't scientifically verified these, but these are things that, that I have read, and they make sense, common sense. When you buy one of these small backpacking water filtration straw looking things, they'll usually say it's good for up to however many thousands of gallons. That thousands of gallons, whatever that number is, that is based on their testing using pretty much clean water. So if you're using water that you're pumping out of a sewer or a mud puddle, the amount of water that you can use in that thing before it becomes too contaminated is at a small fraction of what's on that label. I don't know what it is, and it's going to vary. But as you're filtering really nasty water, it's going to become clogged up, and you know you'll use it up. The life of it will be used up much quicker than what it says on the label. So don't be so dependent on that. Well, this says 4,000 gallons before it is no good. Well, that's 4,000 gallons of clean water. If you're pulling it out of a mud puddle, it could be a few tens of gallons. Secondly, and again, I have no scientific evidence or data to back this up. This is just my gut, so I'm just passing this on as my gut feeling. The testing on most of these things are done with fairly decent water, and that's the idea. You're walking in the Yellowstone National Park, and you come across a creek, and you use it to drink out of it. Is that water safe to drink on its own? Maybe not. I'm always leery of any natural water source unless you can get it like directly at a spring head. But let's say you find a creek out in the woods. Is it safe to drink on its own? Maybe, maybe not. So you use a life straw or one of those water filtration straws. But the water is not disgusting. It just has potential bacteria in it that could harm you. In a really bad SHTF scenario, you could find water that's pretty much sewage water. So is that filtration device going to be able to filter that water and make it safe to drink? I don't know. Personally, I can't tell you what to do, because this is a decision that could depend your life on. For me, I'm not going to, if at all possible, I'm not going to solely depend on one of those portable filters, especially if the water is that bad. I'm going to try to filter it, probably filter out the solids through, handkerchiefs and socks, and then maybe run it through the little water filter. Probably boil the water, and if I can, put a little bleach in it, or some water purification tablets. And I know you're saying, bleach, that's awful. Well, yeah, but it's better than what could be in the water. And even then, it may not. Because here's the thing. In a really bad down situation, especially in a highly concentrated metropolitan area, that water is going to get nasty fast. Sanitation and disease is going to be one of your primary concerns. That and your own personal safety, because you've got large sewer systems that if the grid goes down, they're going to start backing up. Water systems stop working. People could potentially be defecating everywhere. There could be human doo-doo, animal doo-doo, things like that. Garbage trucks are going to stop running, and it won't take too long to start having animals and people dying And then when that happens, then you've got, potential diseases from dead bodies. So in a, concentrated, populated area, your disease is going to be something that you're going to have to be worried about almost most of all. If not the most important, it's going to be maybe number two. And so being able to get clean drinking water in a place like that is going to be really serious. So you need to have a plan for that. And don't just become dependent on the 1995, Walmart brand filter or something that you picked up. Be able to filter it several ways and purify it several ways, in hopes that you've cleaned it enough. Then security is another thing. Where to take shelter. If you're able to use your vehicle, if it's still running, you're able to park and move around, that's definitely going to be an option. But you need to, have plans for where to bed down, because if you're stuck in the city for a while, you're going to need to sleep, and you're going to need to have a plan of where to do that. And so your security is also you're going to take in consideration your security. So if you're able to be armed, or at least carry some type of armament, some type of firearm with you in your vehicle, I highly suggest you do that for those types of situations, and for any type of personal defense situation. But definitely in this, you need to plan to have something to protect yourself. And then you got to make the decision of whether to bug in or bug out. And I know that most people are thinking, well, if I'm just passing through a town and I get stuck there because of the apocalypse happens, I'm going to want to bug out. I'm going to want to get the heck out of Dodge fast. Yes, you are, but that may not be the best, idea for you to do. You may be better off kind of finding a safe spot to hunker down for a few days until, the worst of the panic blows over. I don't know. It all depends on if you're able to find a place to hunker down. And you have to consider that depending on where you're at, if it's a really large city, even on foot, it could take days to get out of, depending on where you're at. Some of these large cities that have millions of people in, some of them are quite spread out. And, I'm thinking like Denver, the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Of course, New York. You're stuck in New York City, or some of these really large cities, LA, that area. It's not going to be a thing, okay, I abandoned my vehicle and then, the next day I'm out in the country because I walked all day and all night. It doesn't work that way. It's going to take you several days to get out in the country. So you may be better off, at least for a while, kind of, bugging in. And so you need to, plan for that. Again, with your vehicle, if you've got the ability to store extra gear in it, clothing, footwear, and make sure you change out your clothing with the seasons. It's August now, and what if you haven't changed it out and something happens and you go and you pull out wool sweaters and wool socks and mucklucks, and well, that stuff's not going to do you any good. You've just wasted all that space. You need something that, for that season, and then when cold weather comes in, change it out. Get in the habit of doing that. Get in the habit of inspecting your gear. I've talked about that before, and especially your vehicle gear, because you also need to inspect it because your vehicle is going to have a much more variation of temperature. It gets hot inside the cabin, the trunk, things like that. So if you're keeping food in there, water, things like that that are more perishable, you need to, check them more often than you would the stuff in your home, because your home is most likely climate controlled and your vehicle isn't all the time. So you need to check that kind of stuff. These are, really important things to think about if you're traveling, if you're on vacation, if you're just traveling to be traveling, if you commute to work, going to visit friends and relatives, things like that. If you're traveling, whether you live in the city or not, if you're traveling and you're, away from your home, these are things that you kind of need to, start thinking about and planning, and have this stuff on hand so that if something happens, having extra food, And then, like I said in the last video, make sure you have enough of this stuff for everyone that's going to be traveling with you. Because if you have enough stuff for you and then your wife and 3 or 4 kids are in the vehicle, it's not going to be good enough. Going back a little bit, the sanitation, disease, that kind of stuff, that's one of the things that bothers me, that worries me the most. In a large city, in a bad SHTF scenario, is the potential for, you know, disease to happen, and it could happen very rapidly. If you look at historic data of, you know, things happening, bad things happening, it doesn't take very long before, you know, water systems become highly contaminated. You know, things start dying, animals, people, and then you have, you know, diseases from that. Food becomes contaminated. You know, there's lack of sanitation, lack of being able to clean yourself, to you know, sanitize things. It doesn't. It's not something that's going to take weeks for it to happen before it gets bad. It could happen within just a few days' time, especially considering some of these cities that are extremely concentrated in population. So think a lot on that one. Really focus on that. What are some things that you can add in your large kit that would help in sanitation? Sanitation wipes, you know, little bottle of Clorox bleach, you know, things like that that you could, you know, use to, getting mosquitoes out here now, that you could help sanitize with, you know, towels, little towelettes, different things like that, baby wipes, and they make ones that, they're not baby wipes, but they're like that, but they have, you know, disinfectant in it. Yes, I am all for being as natural as possible, but, you know, sometimes those chemicals are helpful. And so for things like that, I would definitely have them on board. So there's a few more things to think about. If you're stuck in a concentrated urban environment and the apocalypse happens, what do you do? Make sure you have things ahead of time that you've planned for, and then keep your head and your wits about you, because people in the city, I predict, are going to react maybe worse than people in the country, because they're concentrated, they're more dependent upon the system around them, utilities, things like that. So when everything goes crashing down, there's going to be a lot of panic, much more, and because there's more people, there's more danger to deal with, the people themselves. So be prepared for that, because most everyone, I would say, watching at some time or other is going to be traveling through large cities. And if you're anything like me, and you say, you know, if I didn't have any bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all. If it's going to happen, there's a good chance that it could happen then, when you're away from your 3-year supply of food and ammunition and clothes and medicine and bunker and bug out vehicle and all that kind of stuff. You're in the family, you know, minivan going through wherever on vacation, and it happens. You need to be planned, you know, have a plan for that and be ready. So, all right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.